Hi, you're listening to the Stefan Livera podcast, a show about Bitcoin and Austrian economics. Today, for episode 199, I'm speaking with Thomas Verklen and Ghost43 of the Electrum Wallet project. So, for those of you who don't know, Electrum Wallet is one of the longest standing Bitcoin wallets. It's well known for supporting hardware wallets, multi-signature, and Lightning. So we get into a lot of these details. And for some listeners, if you're a little bit newer, you might also want to go back and check out my earlier episode with Thomas, episode 125. This show brought to you by Swan Bitcoin. You already know Swan is the best place to auto-stack your Bitcoin in the US with low fees and easy setup. Just connect your bank account, set the amount and frequency of your buys, and rest easy as Swan automatically buys your Bitcoin. Use the link swanbitcoin.com/Livera. Swan is also making a splash on the Bitcoin content scene with Swan Signal, pairing up great Bitcoiners for unique and compelling discussions. They're broadcasting live every Wednesday on Twitter and YouTube, and it's also an audio podcast. So some recent shows include Samson Mao with Parker Lewis, Lynn Alden with Jeff Booth. There's a lot of shows in the archive, so go and check them out. They've got a YouTube channel, and the audio podcast for that is swansignalpodcast.com. Next is Unchained Capital, Bitcoin native financial services. So if we are entering a bull market and you're starting to think about the security of your coins, you need to start thinking about whether you have an appropriate level for the number of coins or amount of coins that you have. So look up the Vault product that Unchained Capital offer. And if you need a hand, well, they've got the Vault Concierge onboarding package. So you can select the package, whether you need some hardware wallet devices to be mailed out to you. The concierge team will walk you through the setup and provide guidance, and you can build that vault together using a 2 of 3 setup to improve your security. Also, if you need a loan, Unchained Capital offer that, so you can put up some Bitcoin and get USD without selling your Bitcoin. So there may be some tax advantages for you there. Unchained are really impressive. They've got incredible content. They've got so many great blog posts as well. So it's a great resource for you to send to people as well. So go and learn more at unchained-capital.com. Thomas and Ghost43, welcome back to the show.
Hi, thank you.
Hey, Stefan. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so welcome to the show, guys. Now, Thomas, I know my listeners have already heard you on the prior episode, but Ghost, did you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into Bitcoin and how you got into developing with Electrum Wallet?
Yeah, sure. I got into Bitcoin a few years ago because I had some personal bad experiences with the traditional financial system, I guess you could say. First I only started using Bitcoin for doing a couple of donations, but then I found Electrum and I set up a cold storage, and I'm full on using Bitcoin since then. I've started contributing to Electrum, I guess, almost 3 years ago now. At that point, I had been using Electrum for a year or so already, I think. But that summer, near the end of the summer 2017, I had a lot of free time, and I decided I would fix a few bugs that had been nagging me, that I've experienced as a user. And first, I've only been fixing a few things in my free time, but then I spent more and more time on it, and then it became a full-time job, basically. Quite literally, as Thomas offered me a job back then. So since then, I've been working for Electrum Technologies, and I get paid to work on stuff that I love and would use anyway. So, yeah.
That's great. And so today we're going to chat a little bit more in detail about Electrum Wallet 4, which is the new release. So Thomas, did you want to just tell us a little bit? Our last interview was, I think, towards the end of last year. And so there was a bit of a gap between versions 3.38 and version 4. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, sure. Just to bounce back on what Ghost said. So if you want to work for Electrum, if you want to have a job, it's a very good idea to start by submitting pull requests, and then from there on, you might actually end up being a full-time developer. Yeah, that's my 2 cents. So why was there such a big gap? Last time we talked about it on your podcast, I mentioned that we just merged the Lightning branch into master. And at that point, So it means that we had code that was already fairly stable, and but merging it into master triggered a lot of code reorganization, because there are things that you cannot do when you work on two branches, and you can only start doing them once you have the thing on the same branch. So since it's a big change, we did a lot of things that have to do with the code architecture and how things interact, that couldn't be done before we were working on a separate branch. Another thing is, of course, that we had to test a lot of edge cases, as people know with Lightning. The difficulty is not the happy path, the happy execution path of things. It's when things go wrong. So this involves a lot of testing. And along the way, we added even more features that we were not planning in the first place. So this is also one of the reasons why it took so much time.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the new features that came in. So obviously Lightning is probably the big thing. So can you tell us a little bit about how that came into Electrum? What were your experiences there? What were some of the hurdles? Or what were some of the things that were difficult with putting Lightning into Electrum?
Oh yeah, sure. But when I say new features, I mean along Lightning, we added things such as a Watchtower or Submarine swaps that were not planned initially, but that are nice to have too.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning is a meta feature. It's like there's a reason we've been working on it for like 2 years or something.
Yeah, it's been a very long thing, a long process.
So let's talk a little bit about the process then of setting it up. So I had to play around with Lightning on Electrum just to test it out, obviously. So I spun up a test wallet, put a small amount of sats in there, and then I noticed you've got that additional tab there with the channels. And so you go into, I think, wallet information, and then you enable Lightning on that wallet. And then you can start the Lightning part of it. So I noticed when you go to open a channel, there's also a little suggest box there where it suggests a node to open the channel with. So can you tell us a little bit about that feature and how that suggestion works?
Or in terms of GUI, things are not really finished or set in stone. I think what you said about how Lightning is enabled, for example, the feedback we have received from users shows or suggests that it might be a bit confusing because users do not expect to have to visit that dialog in order to enable Lightning. So I'm thinking that we might actually move that button into the channels tab. The user interface is really that's our first iteration. So we are going to change a few things there.
Yeah, I mean, specifically about the wallet information dialog thing to enable Lightning, we made the decision as a temporary thing, as far as I recall. That we wanted to make it a bit more hidden. We didn't want too many users to enable Lightning at the same time as soon as we release, and then have more bug reports than we can handle.
Yeah, that's another part of it. That's also the reason why we have not yet enabled the notification that there is a new version available. Although I'm planning to do it in the coming days, but that's because I was also away from my computer. So at the moment we want to slow things down because we receive more bug reports than we can handle.
So what was some of the early feedback on the new version of Electrum?
Some users were confused and are still confused about I'm not talking about Lightning here. I'm talking about the way you have to do now coin selection, but it has to do with Lightning because we wanted coin selection to be more generic, to be usable with not just on-chain transactions, but also when you open a channel or when you do a submarine swap, you want to be able to select the coins in any context. So Ghost had this idea that I find really nice to have this this coin selection visible from all the tabs. And so that means that you have to do it in 2 steps, but it's much more powerful because so yeah, that's one thing. Another thing is of course, in the send and receive tabs, now we handle both on-chain and Lightning transactions. That means that requests are abstracted away from whether they are on-chain or Lightning, and the fee, the on-chain fee, is decided after. So these are the things that have confused some users.
Yeah, that makes a bit of sense. So essentially, when we are kind of switching between doing a Bitcoin on-chain transaction, and we're thinking in terms of sats per byte, and then we're switching context now to doing a Lightning transaction, well, it's different way it operates there. And so I also noticed that, yeah, as you mentioned, there's a few different little dialogues and things. So you've got like Watchtowers and swaps aspect. Perhaps let's talk about the swaps component. So I had a look in the dialogue, and it looks like that's going through Bolt's exchange. So can you tell us a little bit about how the Submarine swaps feature works there?
Yeah, sure. It is not going through Bolt's exchange. It's a node that we are operating using the Bolt's software.
I see.
So
Gotcha.
that's not exactly the same. It's also a new business model for us because we are collecting the fees there. So we hope that it's going in the future to develop as a new source of income. But yeah, if you are familiar with the Bolt's exchange, the UI is very close. What we have done is we give a bit more freedom to the user in terms of selecting the fee. You cannot do that on the website of Bolts. So it's a double-edged sword because we give more power to the user, but it also implies that they can actually shoot themselves in the foot maybe more easily. But in the end, it's not so dangerous because if the transaction never gets mined, then you can cancel the whole thing.
So let's just back up one step there. So in terms of the Submarine swap, could you just tell us what direction and what context it would work in? So let's say I've just funded my wallet. Is the idea that I can create a channel and then I can push some of that balance out of the Lightning channel, receive it back on chain, and then now I've got more incoming capacity? Is that the idea?
Yeah, that is the main use case. We have this issue that if you're a merchant and you want to receive Lightning funds, you do not necessarily have a channel with incoming capacity. And initially, I think we thought about creating a server that allows a little bit like Bitrefill, they open a channel to you, for you, and that's a service they charge for. So we thought about that, and then I found about this Bolt's exchange software that is really nice and easy to use, and it allows to do so much more things than just a service that opens a channel. For the user, it's actually better to have those swaps because this Submarine swap is also known as a loop in, loop out. If you use the terminology of Lightning Labs, they also have the same service with a different name, but we call them swaps. I'm sorry, I'm getting lost. I forgot the beginning of your question.
Oh, yes. I was just clarifying which direction it was in. So in this case, it's kind of like
it's both.
You just set up your channel. You can go both ways.
You can go both ways. So if you open the swap dialog, you can actually click on the Lightning icon, and it will swap the Lightning and Bitcoin icons. So you can either send on-chain or you can send Lightning. Yeah, you can also switch in the same way on the Bolt's website, actually.
A quick example might be, let's say you are a merchant, you're taking a lot of payments, and then over time, those channels, all the balance is now sitting on your local side, and now you need to push it back out, and that's where you might use that swap.
Yeah, exactly. That allows you to keep receiving on the same channel, and that's very good because the customers that have found the path to you are likely to find the same path again in the future. So if that channel gets exhausted, you probably want to rebalance it. Yeah.
And now in terms of opening channels, so let's say I open up my Electrum, I fund it with some Bitcoin, I try to open a channel. I was having a little bit of issues trying to manually open the channels to some of my own Bitcoin nodes. I was able to do it through a suggested one. So is there any difference there in terms of using the URI to pick which node? Or I think the box currently says alias. Can you outline a little bit around that?
Which box says alias? Sorry, the box.
When you open a channel and then you have to paste in the pub key of the other person who you want to open the channel with.
Yeah, so you can paste a remote node ID and or a connection string. It's the node ID plus the IP address and the port. Yep. If the node is already in your database, then you don't need the full connection string. But sometimes it's not going to be the case, so that's why there are connection strings. And the suggestion, the suggest button, will give you a node that you are already connected with. So we know that this node is online.
Yeah, I mean, the suggest button is very naive at the moment. We are going to change it probably in the future, but at the moment, it just gives you one of the nodes you already have a transport connection established with.
Let's talk a little bit about the Watchtowers. So I guess for people who might have used another Lightning wallet or Lightning daemon, let's say, they're used to that daemon monitoring the chain to check for if somebody's trying to cheat you, etc. Can you outline a little bit about how the Electrum Watchtowers work? And I see you've got two different models there.
Yeah. Okay. Let me first say, okay, we developed this because I was thinking about the Watchtower as a business model for us. And so this, the idea was that we were going to have Watchtower as a service for our users. But I backed up because the disk requirements in the current model are too large. So currently the Watchtower implementation that we have is I mean, it's okay for your own personal use, but we did not implement a user authentication system that would allow you to have a Watchtower with many users. So regarding, you were asking about the different models, and that's precisely the question. So there is this idea that you could incentivize the Watchtower by giving them a share of the justice transaction, and you would not need to pay them other than that. That was one of the early ideas around Watchtowers. I don't know if anyone has ever actually implemented that kind of Watchtower, because obviously you don't have good guarantees if you use this type of Watchtower, because the Watchtower. So you have strong anonymity. The Watchtower doesn't need to know anything about you, but you don't have the guarantee that they will keep watching your channel forever or for the life cycle of your channel. So my suggestion was to have a Watchtower that knows a few more things about your identity, so that it can it knows about your channels. And so that you can at least trash the data when the channel is closed, and then you can save some disk space. And so the idea was to have a watchtower that would charge it would not charge you for the justice transaction, but it would charge you for the action of watching. So you would need to have a subscription for that kind of service. But like I said, we did not develop this fully into a commercial service. So the code is open source. Someone else can actually use it to do that if they want. But at the moment, we decided that we are not going to offer this as a service. So the Watchtower code is useful if you run your own private Watchtower. And you can do this, for example, if you have a machine that is always online, but you don't want to have private keys on that machine. Typically, if you have your own private Electrum server, it makes sense to also have a Watchtower on that machine.
Yeah, I mean, regarding the question of there being two different Watchtower models, I guess in the current code, well, okay, so there's the local and the remote Watchtower options, and the remote Watchtower is what I guess a power user, when told about Watchtowers without compensation, would think about. I mean, that's the remote Watchtower. So if you have multiple computers, for example, I mean, let's say you have a server or an always online desktop machine back at home. Then you could use the remote Watchtower such that you run Electrum with the Watchtower options configured always online or almost always online on that machine, and then your other client sets as a remote Watchtower to connect to your home machine. And the other option, the local Watchtower, is such that well, I guess it's kind of specific to Electrum in that in Electrum you can have multiple wallets. And I'm not sure whether this is actually true about any of the other current Lightning wallets. So, I mean, if you create multiple wallets in Electrum, you can even open them at the same time simultaneously. And enabling or disabling Lightning is independent among the wallets. So you can enable Lightning for, I don't know, out of 5 of your wallets or whatever, and you can even open them at the same time, and then they will spin up independent Lightning nodes with separate IDs and their own channels. And so this introduces a complication, or well, I guess several, but from the point of view of the Watchtower, I mean, without a Watchtower, if you have Lightning enabled in one of your Electrum wallets, but you don't have that Electrum wallet open because, let's say, I don't know, you've created another one for your work funds or whatever, and you only have that one open and you're using that one to do a few transactions, then in case let's say your counterparty cheated and breached one of your channels for your other Electrum wallet, then you wouldn't notice, because I mean that's a completely independent wallet. It's a separate Lightning node, and to check for that, I mean, naively you might even think that you might want private keys, let's say, but in any case you have to have some kind of information, and you have to have that wallet decrypted. But anyway, so the point is that if you enable a local Watchtower with Electrum, then we will save some information that doesn't include private keys on your local disk, such that if any wallet file is open with Electrum, if Electrum itself is running independent of what you are doing, then it will watch all of your wallets at the same time.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so let's say the user... Oh, sorry, go on, Thomas.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I just wanted to make one thing clear. I mean, it might not be obvious, but if you run a Watchtower, you don't need to run a Lightning node for that. A Watchtower is simply a daemon that watches the blockchain, and if UTXO is spent, then it broadcasts a transaction. So when you run a Watchtower, it's completely independent from running a Lightning node.
And so in this example, let's say the user is just running Electrum Wallet on their laptop PC, and they open up some channels, and then later they close their laptop for the day. And I guess, as I understand you, then it means, let's say they've gone to sleep and they only open their laptop again when they wake up in the morning. And I guess at that point, then the Watchtower, the local Watchtower in that example on the laptop running on that Electrum wallet, would then pick up, oh, okay, there's been a transaction on the chain. I need to broadcast the justice transaction. Is that how it would work there, or where am I getting it wrong there?
Yeah. I mean, the point of running a local watchtower is that you don't need to have the wallet file decrypted. I guess that's the most simplistic use case, because I mean, you might have everything decrypted, the whole file, and you need to enter your password to open it, right? And you might have multiple wallets, and without some kind of architecture such as this local watchtower, you would need to decrypt all of your wallets and have all of those checked for breaches. But with the local watchtower, it's enough to just start the application and don't care about that. You don't need to open all of your wallets.
Because otherwise, you might have to sit there doing the 5 different passwords for your 5 different wallets,
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
it becomes a bit of a right.
You can even have the application run in the background without any wallet open. There is a GUI preference for that. So in that case, the Watchtower will be active.
Yeah, and so I suppose for users who are running an always-on node, it might make sense for, let's say, the package node in a box. So things like MyNode and Nodl and so on, Raspberry Blitz. If they package in an Electrum server, it might make sense for them to also package in the Watchtower, the external Watchtower, and then so that way it just it's always running there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Around Lightning as well. So obviously with Lightning, because the channels, just the importance of doing backups. Can you talk to us a little bit about the use of static channel backups for Electrum Lightning?
Okay, so the backups that we have do not allow you to restore the channel. That's I think that's also the same with LND. And
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So the only thing you can do with that kind of backup is to have the channel closed. So it should not be confused. There should be a different word than backup, but I don't have one. The main point here is that if you have a Lightning channel, the funds in your Lightning channel cannot be recovered from your seed words. So in case you lose your device or you have an accident, you probably want to have a backup of your channels. Currently, we use a static remote key, and the static remote key that we use is actually one of the public keys of your wallet. That's a feature that might not stay in the future because it won't be possible anymore soon because of some changes in the Lightning protocol. But that means that currently you have this extra comfort that if the remote party force closes the channel, then your funds will land on your wallet, whether you have made a backup or not. So you could argue that the backup currently is not very useful, but it will probably be more important in the future if this feature is removed.
And just speaking about Lightning implementations more generally, as Thomas, I know we spoke about this the first interview. Can you tell us a little bit around your efforts around doing your own Lightning implementation? Has that been difficult for you? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Maybe Ghost, you want to talk about that?
Okay. So originally we didn't actually want to do our own implementation, and we had another developer, Weisenkoch, Janus, who experimented with another model, and we even researched. I mean, we researched other existing implementations and took a look whether we could somehow just package them up and write some API to use those. But in the end, as amusing as it might sound, it turned out to be easier to write our own. Maybe it wouldn't be the case today with Rust Lightning, which was written with basically this use case in mind of packaging it into an existing wallet. But back then, Rust Lightning didn't exist, so we decided to write our own implementation. And the main advantage for us is that because it is written in Python, and because we are the ones maintaining it, although that obviously also entails burdens, we can experiment freely with it and implement stuff that is not part of the protocol yet. Experimental features that, it allows us more freedom. So, for example, we could come up with features such as in what async is doing with Phoenix, with the experimental TLV type length value extensions.
And also the trampoline routing.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, we have more freedom to experiment and to implement our own features. And also, it's a lot more motivating than having to adapt to a moving target, as in another implementation that changes its API every time.
Yeah, but to be honest, originally when we had started with this approach, which was, I think, maybe in April 2018 or something, we didn't think it would take this much time. Originally we thought that we might have some prototype that works for the happy path in like 2 weeks, but that was overly optimistic. Even for something that worked somewhat reliably for the happy path, it took like 2 or 3 months, I think. And then I don't know, after maybe a year, we had something that worked okay, but it was almost trivial to trigger bugs that resulted in critical issues. So that's why it took more than 2 years in the end. It's a lot of work to implement Lightning from scratch. It's you don't want to do it unless you really have the resources and you can commit to it.
You touched on Rust Lightning, and I presume you're also referring there to LDK by the Square Crypto team as well, right?
Yeah, I guess that's the new name for it. But even originally, when Bloom had started Rust Lightning, he said that, well, okay, or maybe at the very beginning, he said that he wanted to just experiment with Lightning. But after a few months, he said that he wants to write something that can be integrated into existing wallets. And that's been the narrative ever since, as far as I'm up to date with it. That's exactly the use case, actually, that we would have needed, except it didn't exist at the time.
Right, and it would just be too difficult now to change back, right?
Well, yeah, it would be a lot of work, I think. But to be honest, even still, we are more comfortable with Python code, and we can freely change anything, and we are deeply intimate with how the code works that we wrote now. So I guess at this point, it's not worth even trying to change it.
But I think Lightning is so important that then at some point someone would have started to write a Python implementation of Lightning if we didn't. So because it's also about the language. People are familiar with the programming language.
Also wanted to chat a little bit about the user experience. So when the user is starting up Electrum for the first time, there's been some discussion there about people who are more privacy conscious, that they would want to maybe get prompted in terms of connecting, whether that's to their own server or whether to a public server. Do you have any thoughts on that, and whether anything could be done there around the user experience for the more privacy conscious?
Oh yeah, there is a difference between the Android app and the desktop. The desktop app allows you to do what you just said. And we have had the same the request to have the same option on the Kiwi application, which doesn't have it at the moment.
Yeah, so you can already do this on Qt on desktop, but not on Android. Yeah.
I see. So this is like you open it up, and then in the bottom right, you click the connection, like the red light or green light, and then so we're referring here to the first time setup of Electrum Wallet, right, or first time use.
Yes, it is a special case basically in what we call the install wizard. So I mean, if you start Electrum and you don't have a wallet, or even if you do have a wallet but it's encrypted and it tries to open that, the wizard will open to allow creating new wallets or entering your password for your existing encrypted wallets. And we have logic to detect that it is the first time you start the wizard. So I mean, that means it's the first time you start the application itself, and if so, there's an extra dialog at the beginning, which is basically the same as the network dialog users might be familiar with as part of the main application when you already have a wallet open, and you can just configure to only connect to one server or connect to your own server, or well, any combination of that.
And also, any thoughts around whether that could be made easier for some users who maybe they're not as comfortable with command line or doing manual configuration? Is there anything there that you think you might be able to add into the user interface there, so that the GUI only user can achieve a similar level of privacy there, like say one server option?
Well, I mean, I think if you're talking about the desktop application, and again, we have plans to make the Android application up to par to implement the same with Android. But on desktop, I think actually even in the GUI, this is already possible. Although maybe I guess it's not that well known, but I mean, there's a prompt when you open Electrum for the first time, and you can set this up even one server mode. Oh wait, okay, maybe not one server mode, but definitely connecting to your own server.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what I was referring to. Yeah. So I think you can select your own server, but I think there's that thing where it shows you like how many other nodes or how many other servers you could connect to, and I guess maybe if you're more paranoid and you only want to connect to one, your own one or something like that.
One thing I don't want, I want to say is that I don't want to promote too much the one server option, because it's actually a reduction of your security. If you don't use it with your own node and you use it with an external server that is not yours, the one server option makes SPV ineffective.
Well, I mean, yeah. Well, okay. I mean, you're talking about the scenario where that single server operator is also a miner, right?
Yeah. I mean, it kind of for SPV to work, you need to connect to multiple nodes, not just a single one.
Okay. I mean, I see what you're saying, but maybe that's not the best way of saying it. I'm not sure. I think SPV works even if you only connect to a single node, except you have to be more careful than which. I mean, only a power user would know to do, such as you would have to actually check whether you have the expected number of blocks and stuff like that, because I mean, okay, so like one possible attack vector is that you connect to a single server with one server mode, which is not actually yours, which is, I mean, it's easy. It would be easy to do if everything was exposed in the GUI. And then let's say the operator of the server even is either a miner themselves or collaborates with a miner, and let's say they have like 10% of the hash rate or something, and then they could trick you with a transaction and have one or two confirmations. I mean, mine actual blocks for that transaction, and then all the SPV checks would pass. I mean, even full node checks might pass, right? But the point is that this branch of the chain would be weaker, would be shorter than the best chain, but you wouldn't know about the best chain because you're only connected to one node.
Yeah, so I was thinking more just in the context of, let's say the user already has their own, Electrum server running, and it's in that context. But certainly for the light wallet user, the one who's not using their own Electrum server, then that makes sense to me. Let's chat a little bit about hardware wallet support as well. So there was that recent thing about the Trezor. I think they locked it down to certain derivation paths. Did that impact you guys?
Certain derivation path. Do you mean the BIP143, the SegWit signing thing?
Yes, that one. That's the one. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, it impacted us in the sense that it was another factor actually to speed up doing a release, releasing 4.0 because they to fix that vulnerability they had to basically disallow. I mean, they had to do a breaking change in their internal protocol such that the existing latest version of Electrum back then, for example, wouldn't be able to sign transactions with the Trezor. So yes, it impacted us in that sense.
And in terms of maintaining support with any of the other hardware wallets, has any of that been a challenge for you, or that has just been not such a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, our current model for hardware wallet support doesn't really scale, I would have to say. Yeah, because in practice, hardware wallet manufacturers send a pull request. They write the initial code, and we also ask to have actual devices sent to us so that we can test it. But then it's only it's only some of the larger manufacturers who actually help us maintain that code at all. The smaller ones basically after the initial pull request don't do anything. And so that means every time we change something in the code, even a minor refactor, let's say, then we have to obviously change that their plugin as well, which is fine. But then to properly do that, we have to test with the actual device because it's really it would be extremely difficult to set up automated tests that would catch everything. So we have to test with the actual device, and then we have to test with like 10 devices at this point, I think. So yeah, and we actually keep getting requests to have more and more hardware wallets added. So yeah, we will have to figure something out. But I have to say that at least Trezor and digital Bitbox 2, or I mean Bitbox 2, they keep sending pull requests to significantly lesser the burden of maintenance for us. So they basically maintain their own plugins, so that's very nice. But yeah, not everyone does it.
Yeah.
All right, so other hardware wallet manufacturers, pick up your game, hey?
So I mean, I'm very much looking forward to a unified hardware wallet interface. I think that that will be a progress, but also it might not align with the interest of private companies because they want their product to have more features than the competition. So I don't know if that will ever be a reality.
Well, I mean, there's the Bitcoin Core project, the HWI, at this point, which is kind of similar. So at this point, I don't think any further unification would happen because that took away all the incentives. But so I mean, one question is whether maybe we could use HWI for Electrum, but
No, my point is whether hardware wallet manufacturers are going to fully embrace this and comply with this.
well, I mean, I think the whole point of HWI is embracing the reality that won't happen. And Andrew Chowdhury just decided to write an abstraction layer himself. So I think realistically, the question for us is whether we could use HWI. But yeah, I mean, last time I looked at it, I'm not so sure that it would be good for us. Mainly because I mean, first and foremost, this is written with a CLI use case in mind.
And so I guess then, does that mean you might have to eventually start rationalizing the supported hardware wallets down to just the big ones that you want to maintain support?
Yeah, I mean, I'm don't know about that.
Yeah,
but,
I think we might have to do that at some point, but it depends on the burden that we have maintaining a plugin.
also wanted to chat a little bit about multi-signature. So Electrum is well known as one of the ways that if an individual wants to set up their own multi-signature, well, this is one of the ways to do that. And it's got the wizard there, so users can pull together different hardware wallets and put them together. And I think even in this recent version, it's now possible to do. I think that previously there were some difficulties doing like different hardware wallets together, but I think this new version actually does allow it. I think with cold cards, so like for example, if you wanted to do like a cold card and a ledger and a Trezor in a 2 of 3, something like that, I think this new version allows for that. Just also wanted to just discuss for users who are thinking about doing that, what are some of the things they need to think about in terms of backups? What should they be keeping if they want to do that kind of setup?
Well, I mean, okay. So first, I have to say that I mean, even before, since like I'm not sure Electrum 2.8 or something, I think that multi-sig with multiple hardware signers involved already has been
but not with
working.
cold card.
The change in version, yeah, the change in version 4 is that cold card, because of using PSBT and the intricacies of PSBT itself, it didn't work. Well, I mean, there was a very involved workaround, but let's just say that cold card didn't work as part of a multisig before. Now it works, but actually even right now it's not really ideal. I'm not sure a complete newbie could set it up because well, okay, I mean it works now kind of easily if you're willing to connect the cold card via USB to the computer, but if you want to use it well cold, then it's still a bit involved because the issue is that XPubs are no longer sufficient to set up a signer. Now you also need a derivation prefix. I mean, the beginning part of the derivation path, and also a root fingerprint. So, I mean, the issue is that an XPub is no longer enough to describe fully a cosigner as part of a multisig, and this used to be the case in the past. So basically, we would need to come up with a new format which could hopefully become standardized to contain this extra information in addition to the XPub, and then it would once again become easy to do all kinds of multisig, and in the future maybe even more complex wallets.
Yeah, there is already also the issue of what we're going to do in the future with script descriptors or mini script. So it overlaps with the question that Ghost just raised.
Yeah, actually, that's what I was going to ask about. Whether you were interested to use that the script descriptors approach, and whether that would save you time or whether it wouldn't really save you much work there.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely interested in using output script descriptors. I mean, not just for this reason. I'm not sure when we will have the time to get to that. But I mean, obviously, if anyone is interested in working on that, then contributions are welcome, and we would help in any way we can. Otherwise, it might need a year or whatever. But specifically for this issue, actually, output script descriptors themselves would still not be enough because they are like just not high level enough in the sense that I mean the most simplistic example is that if you have a standard wallet, then I mean an HD wallet, then typically what you would have in almost all the wallets nowadays, well, maybe apart from Bitcoin Core, is you would have a simple depth 2 tree where like one branch is used for receiving addresses or external addresses, and another branch is used for change addresses or internal addresses. And this would not be hardened; it would be public derivation. Almost all the wallets do this. So like m/0/I is your receiving addresses, and m/1/j is your those are your change addresses. And to describe your receiving addresses, you would need one output script descriptor with a star at the end, and to describe your change addresses, you would need another. So the point is, you would need two output script descriptors, not just one. And also, actually, you would need some kind of additional metadata to signal that you want to use one descriptor for your receiving addresses and the other one for your change addresses. So you would need to put all this information into a string or some kind of blob that ideally you can copy paste, let's say, instead of what we are currently doing with an XPub.
I see. Yeah. So there's a bit more complexity there. And then we're back to the user maybe they have to save some kind of JSON file with all that information in it. And
yeah, exactly. But at that point, that becomes really hard to back up, and even not that comfortable to I guess even copy paste. Yeah, I mean, in terms of backups, I guess maybe you wanted to talk about this too. But so if you have a multi-sig wallet, what you need to back up is well, okay, so ideally you would need multiple backup locations for your multi-sig wallet, right? So I'm talking about the scenario where a single user to reduce risk and attack surface, they would set up a multi-sig wallet. Contrast that with multiple signers sharing a multi-sig wallet, right? So a single user could create multiple seeds, let's say, and distribute the backup locations physically, or maybe store one seed online and another offline and another at a friend or whatever, and then require two out of those three, or I don't know. I mean, there are endless possibilities almost. But the point is that they would need to store all the XPubs potentially at all the locations, or at least that's the easiest way to do it. Because in the end, when you restore, if you have to use your backups, you will need all your master public keys involved. And I mean, the corresponding public keys can be derived from the seeds, but probably you will have only one or two seeds or whatever, and you will need the master public keys for the missing seeds as well, right? So
yeah.
so with this output script descriptor, or well, even more complicated actually, as I said, multiple script descriptors actually tagged whether they are changed or not and stuff like that, you would need to store those then instead of the XPubs, which becomes more and more difficult. So I mean, that's not something you can print onto paper, because you cannot really expect users to be able to type back some JSON string from paper.
Yeah, right. So I guess just walking through that example, you're saying, okay, let's just make a quick example to make it clear. So you might be doing a 2 of 3 multi-signature. You might want to keep them in, 3 different locations. And you might think, okay, it's a 2 of 3. And if you lost one of the keys and the wallet file, now you would no longer be able to spend unless you also kept the backup of the XPubs for all 3, correct?
Yes, and that's how it always worked. That's how it must work, because to be able to reconstruct the on-chain Bitcoin script, you need all the public keys involved, and the different public keys are derived from different master public keys.
I guess if I'm understanding you correctly there, it could be done then with 2 separate output descriptors, one for the main, I guess your main receiving addresses, and another for all your change addresses. So would that mean then you're keeping 2 script descriptors in that idea?
Yeah, that's one possible thing we could do, yes.
But obviously I'm just discussing theoretical there. But in terms of today, what you do today is basically you have to keep the XPub for each key, and I guess it also helps if you keep the derivation path for each one, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of key stores, what kind of individual signers the multisig is comprised of. Because if you're just using Electrum seeds, the kind of seeds that Electrum, the application, would generate and give you, then all the derivation path and script type logic is abstracted away from the user. It's encoded basically into the seed itself, so the user doesn't have to know about it.
I see. I get you. So it's more if they're using the traditional BIP39 or some hardware wallet then they need to just be mindful of that. And again, it gets too technical for the average user. So,
well, maybe we will come up with a very simple mapping between mini scripts or script descriptors and integers. If we can do that, then we could actually have a seed type that includes the script descriptor in the seed.
and so I guess on this whole question of multi-signature and standards, are there any other things that could be done to make kind of multi-signature standardized across different, hardware wallets or different wallets? Is there anything there?
I guess what we've just been talking about, it would be the main thing, because I think there are two large points here. One is that how you would back up and correspondingly, of course, restore from that backup, and the other is for your wallet, and the other is how you would sign transactions and transfer unsigned and partial transactions between your different locations. And I think the second point has been by now almost completely solved by the PSBT approach, BIP 174.
The PSBT approach seems to be being adopted, or at least supported by many different wallet softwares and hardwares around the space. So that's, I guess, that's the spending part. So I guess it's just the backups and the backups part that there needs to be some sort of standard that people kind of form up on. Also, you mentioned earlier around the seeds part. So Thomas, I know we spoke about this on the earlier episode. We were talking a little bit about so currently many hardware wallets are using BIP39 style mnemonic or BIP39 seeds, and Electrum has its own seed style. And I suppose just for some users that could be a little bit confusing, because when they're recovering, they are often taught, okay, you only need the first 4 letters of each word to be able to recover that wallet. But it can be a little confusing if there's like multiple word sets. So I'm wondering whether your thoughts have changed on that, Thomas, or Ghost, if you wanted to touch on that as well, the comparison of the different seed types and whether you would go to a BIP39 style
I think
seed.
we would need to get rid of our old word list, the initial word list of Electrum. If we wanted to have this 4 letters disambiguation. And I don't know if we can do that yet. I mean, maybe we could disable it by default, but for sure some users would be confused. Or maybe we can have something a bit smarter that, the big problem we have is that when BIP 39 was published, it's a standard that did collide with the existing Electrum seeds. So because both use English words, so they have words in common, and so the old Electrum seeds could be in some cases valid BIP 39 seeds.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you're just talking about the word lists, but the word list is just one small part of a seed definition. I mean, a scheme. So regarding the word lists, there are currently 2 English Electrum word lists. The one we had used at the very beginning, which is used by so-called old type seeds for Electrum, and since version 2, when the current new seed scheme was introduced for Electrum, these modern Electrum seeds have been using actually the same word list as the BIP39 English word list. And the current scheme is independent completely of the word list. So technically, to decode a seed, you don't even need the word list. The word list is simply used to generate seeds that contain English words. But the current Electrum scheme for the seeds is completely independent of any language or words, or it just uses Unicode characters.
I see. Yeah, understood. The word list is distinct from the actual, way by which you turn.
Yeah, the idea was to not include the word list in the standard and to be able to change it freely later or to localize. So that was my initial ambition. And the big problem we have now is that on Android and also on the desktop, users want to have completion. I mean, it's much easier if the word list is fixed, because you can have a smart keyboard that detects the beginning of the word.
Yeah, but just to make it absolutely clear, so I mean, this is in contrast to what BIP39 has with I mean, actually several word lists. But if you only consider the English word list, it's part of the BIP39 standard. You couldn't just change the word list because then, well, specifically the checksums would not work out. So I mean, the word list for BIP39 is basically set in stone. You cannot change it. But in the case of Electrum, if we wanted to, we could change it at any moment, basically.
Yeah, I guess it just kind of comes to that point of with enough new people coming in, and if they've already got a BIP39 seed, and then they're getting confused about trying to recover that into Electrum, for example.
Yeah, but I think that's a separate question, but we can talk about that too. I mean, I guess, well, I don't know. You decide, Stefan, whether Thomas should talk about why we are not using BIP39.
Right. Yeah, I think we did speak about this in the earlier episode. Okay. Thomas.
No, okay, maybe to make it clear, I think BIP39 is dangerous because non-technical users will only write down their seed words and nothing else, or they might even give this information to someone else who does not know about which client they were using. The problem is that since there is no version number, in BIP39, the software is supposed to be smart and to know about the derivation for your private keys. And of course, it cannot work that way because new derivations are added over the years all the time. And you cannot expect software to work like that unless you are willing to accept to lose Bitcoins. How to say? I mean, users. Okay, the whole point of this English word representation is to make it simple for users who do not want a technical description. If users are willing to have a technical description, then why would you use those seed words? I mean, you could just write a string of hexadecimal, and that would work just as well. The whole point of those words is to have something simple, something you can write down without a computer, just with a pen and paper, and you can restore later. And so the restoration process should be unambiguous. It should not require more technical information, such as the derivation path or the type of software that you were using, and how many derivation chains you are using in your wallet. That's it's ridiculous to expect users to know that.
Yeah, I see. There's definitely some valid concerns there on both sides. And also on the question of rescanning, I saw an interesting, I think Luke Childs, who made a contribution around rescanning on all the common or well-known derivation paths. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Something we are going to merge. We didn't have time yet because we've been really focused on the release. So the idea is to... Okay, I didn't want to touch BIP39 myself because I think it's a never-ending thing for the very reason that BIP39 works with BIP43, and BIP43 is really the issue. It says that the number of potential derivations is unbounded. It can grow indefinitely in the future. So you need to perpetually maintain code that will explore the different derivations that have been used by different software wallets or hardware wallets. So this pull request is the goal is to precisely do that, to have a sort of a comprehensive exploration of the derivation path. And I don't know how it's going to be maintained in the future, but I'm open, of course, to merge it, because at least it will make life easier for some users.
That's exactly the whole point, that this is only needed because of how BIP39 is constructed, because the user might not have their derivation path written down. And actually, it's not even the derivation path anymore. It's also the script type, and even in the future it might be other things, such as like I said, I don't know, half an hour earlier, that nowadays most wallets use this very simple depth2 structure of one branch, one HD branch for receiving addresses and another for change. This is also implicit. So with BIP39, like, everything is implicit, and the user would actually write all this down as part of their backup. So in the future, you could conceive that not only do you need to brute force derivation path and script types, also different basically branches of wallets. Structure of addresses arranged. Yeah, gap limit too.
Yeah, these are all very good points, I think. So I guess just to summarize, so it's kind of like you might have, basically a user might be in a situation where they've got their 12 words or 24 words, but they still don't know exactly how to access their coins, because it's kind of like searching for a needle in a haystack, basically, because there's kind of all these different possible combinations of what that wallet might have been set up to use, and that makes it very difficult then to deal with from a wallet standpoint if they're trying to recover into Electrum Wallet, for example.
Right, yeah.
Oh, also, we should chat a little bit about the Electrum servers. So, as I understand, the Electrum X, apparently that guy went all BSV, and so now the Electrum team is maintaining Electrum X.
It was very nice as long as it lasted, because this developer, QPitchan, was maintaining Electrum X for a bunch of different coins, actually. But he's a Bitcoin Cash and then Bitcoin SV guy. And now, for some reason, he has decided to drop support for anything else but Bitcoin SV, which he calls the real Bitcoin. So we had to take over, and of course we are familiar with the code, because we've been also co-developing this. Every time we had to do a change in the protocol, we had to add it to Electrum X. So it's not a problem for us to maintain this code, but it was convenient actually to have him maintain it, because he is the author of that code. I am not the author of Electrum X. I designed the initial Electrum Server, which is a different code base, and which was slower. So now we're going to maintain the server code for that reason. But that's also, in the future we might also add new things to the protocol. I'm very excited about U3XO. I don't know if you have heard about that. So this is something I have a branch on that repo that is a preliminary implementation of U3XO. So if we want to do this kind of things, of course, we need to change the protocol all the time.
Yeah, I really have to say that it was great to have QPitchan maintain and even write Electrum X, of course, in the first place, because hats off to him. He did write really good codes, and it's really maintainable. Of course there are small bugs here or there, but that's true for any code base. But nothing can last forever. Now QPitchan decided that he wants to support Satoshi's vision or whatever, so now we will have to maintain our own fork.
Gotcha. Yeah, and as I understand, so typically a lot of users, well, in terms of like the packaged nodes, they typically run with Electrum Rust server, whereas I think the people who want to be more efficient across lots of wallets, they tend to use Electrum X. And I think there was a recent post by Jameson and the Casa team talking about benchmarking the different Electrum servers, and I think for them, they found Electrum X worked best for them. So
yeah, I saw that blog post too. It was nice. Yeah, I mean, if you want to run a public-facing Electrum server serving the public, serving many wallets, then I still recommend. I mean, you should run Electrum X. I think. You should probably run our own fork now, but but if you just want to set up an Electrum server for your own, and you don't want to expose it publicly, then you have a whole bunch of options. I mean, you can still run Electrum X for that too, but you can also run the Electrum Rust implementation or Electrum Personal Server by Chris Belcher, or there's another implementation now, I think, that's very lightweight too, similar to EPS by Nadav Ivgi Shashek. But
BWT, Bitcoin Wallet Tracker.
that one.
Yeah.
One thing about Electrum Personal Server is last time I checked, at least, you cannot use it with Lightning because Lightning requires your Electrum server to be able to watch arbitrary addresses.
Yeah. So there's that further complication. Yeah, but okay. I mean, if you run Electrum Rust server or Electrum X, then you should be perfectly fine.
And also, it's interesting as well, just touching on earlier, you mentioned, Thomas, the U-Tree excerpt by Tad Strager. So that might be an interesting idea for people to be able to more easily run something in between. I mean, I probably won't be able to explain it very well, but basically, as I understand, the idea is that you could have this, I can't remember the exact term, but basically people could be running like a full node on a mobile phone sort of thing, because it would compress the blockchain that small, right?
Yeah, I think maybe he called it a compact node.
Yeah, you can. I mean, it has what is called a compact node. So I would not call it a full node, but there are different reasons why I've been looking at U3XO. It's not clear yet. I mean, we are experimenting, so it's not clear yet whether we will make it part of the Electrum protocol or not. That's really an experiment, an ongoing experiment.
So is there anything else that you guys wanted to touch on in terms of things you've got coming up with Electrum? What should users be looking out for?
Well, I think at the moment we are focused on bug fixes.
Yeah, we don't. I think we've been adding a lot of new features. Now is the time for fixing bugs and consolidating code, and also improving the GUI, because the user experience, we get feedback on the user experience. I mean, when you add a new feature, the first iteration of the GUI that you make for that feature is obviously not the best. So you learn also from user feedback.
Yeah, so for example, I've seen on the subreddit actually for Electrum that it's been a recurring question since version 4 that I mean, the receive tab changed and users can't find the receiving address, because previously when you went to the receive tab, you were given a Bitcoin address. I mean, right away it was shown by default, and now you actually have to press a button to generate a new one, which was I mean, it was an attempt to unify the on-chain and the Lightning experiments, but also to reduce address reuse, such that you would actually have to manually create a new address. Well, I mean, an invoice and be given an address to use for a new payment. But so I mean, these kind of things will maybe have to be made easier to use. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to be done. For example, I think we would need more tests. I mean, like unit tests and functional tests for the Lightning parts mostly. I mean, we already have quite a few, but to be honest, I mean, we would still need more to have better sleep at night. And there are new features to implement in the medium term too. For example, I would like to look into pay join, let's say, but not sure when I will get to that.
Yeah, sorry, there will also be changes to the Lightning protocol itself.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, we have to keep up with the boards.
And maybe at some point we will also want to have Taproot.
if any listener is interested to contribute, where would contributions be most needed?
Well, I mean, first of all, if you want to contribute, you should come to the IRC channel on Freenode. It's hash Electrum, and also, I mean, obviously, find the repository on GitHub, and then, well, I mean, a good place to start, I think, is just to look at some open issues and also pull requests, and I guess maybe also to look at recent commits to see what we are working on. But yeah, I mean, first of all, I think you should ask on IRC. You should say if you have some time and what you might be interested in to work on, and we might be able to. Well, we would probably be able to help you, or might be able to give you ideas. But regarding ideas now, what people.
Well, I'm very happy with the approach where people propose a pull request for an issue that has been annoying them, because that's actually the best, let's say, capital allocation in terms of programming time. People usually they start contributing because they see an issue that we do not see, and that's very important, I think. That's also how you started to work on Electrum. I mean, you were Ghost. You were fixing issues that were annoying you,
Exactly,
and that's most of the time the case when we receive a pull request. It's something that is not so important for us, but it's important for someone, so they propose to fix it, and that's very good because it increases the number of viewpoints on the software.
Yeah, but even if someone wanted to implement a completely new feature, I mean, they can go for it. I mean, I just mentioned PageJoin, for example. If someone said that they would be interested in implementing PageJoin for Electrum, then great. We would give all the help and could discuss the possible approaches and then what modifications would be needed for the code, and then they could go on and maybe not even do the whole thing, but just some prototype that sort of works, and then we could finish it up or whatever.
PageJoin earlier because it seems like kind of easy to do now.
Thinking about Bitcoin more broadly, do you guys have any thoughts on what's going to happen over the next year or two? Are there any things that you're really interested to see in terms of Bitcoin, the protocol, or any other developments in and around Bitcoin and Lightning?
Well, I hope the Taproot soft work happens. I don't know, realistically in like a year or two. And then I hope that the Lightning Network with the bolts can start using Schnorr signatures and also tap script for some of the on-chain scripts. I mean, with Schnorr signatures, replacing the hash pre-images with point multiplication and stuff like that. I mean, that's very exciting, I think. And I think it could realistically happen, but I mean, the prerequisite is having Taproot.
One thing I would really like to have is a much better way to find a path in the Lightning network. Currently, we need to have the whole database locally. So there is this trampoline proposal. I don't know if someone will come up with an even better solution. For the moment, it seems to be the best solution that has been proposed. So I hope that something will emerge, or at least that the trampoline solution will be adopted. Because it makes, I mean, if you don't have to run the Lightning database locally and the gossip, it makes your client much lighter.
Yes, I think in terms of user experience, after we fix some GUI issues, when you use Electrum with Lightning, the main issue at the moment would be all this pathfinding and gossip stuff, because I mean, if you use Electrum as it's intended to be used as a light client that you just fire it up when you need it for a few minutes or whatever, then it's really problematic to sync up all the Lightning gossip. And without that, pathfinding doesn't really work that well, and you will have a lot of failed payment attempts. And then the whole thing cascades, because I mean, this is like one of the main reasons Watchtowers, for example, doesn't really scale at the moment. That I mean, you have to make like 20 payment attempts to have a somewhat larger payment succeed, or maybe even more, and then that needs 20 times the storage, let's say. So yeah, everything is related, I guess.
Yeah, some great reflections there. And I know some of the discussion there was quite heated amongst some of the Lightning developers. I think the concern for some of them was that it would be a privacy concern because not enough people would run the trampoline node, and then there would be too few people, basically too few people running the node and too many people trying to be using the trampoline routing and so on. But I think that's a bit more of a technical debate that we don't need to wade into. And I don't have a position on that. I'm not that into the detail on it.
Yeah, right. I mean, I guess the main point is not that we want to use trampoline. It's just that's the most mature solution, I guess, which doesn't completely give up your privacy in terms of better pathfinding and routing. I mean, we would be content with any other competing solution if there was one.
Maybe there will be one. We don't know yet. I mean, I would say that at the moment, the trampoline is the most reasonable solution in town. But maybe someone will find something even better.
Excellent. Well, if you guys had any closing thoughts for the listeners.
I don't know. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about Electrum. I think we really want to make Bitcoin easy. That's always has been the motivation behind Electrum to increase both security, privacy, and ease of use. So use Electrum and do share feedback with us. That's the best thing you can do to help. And then, of course, if you're a programmer, please do help us fix bugs, propose pull requests. That's the thing.
Yeah, that last part is also what I wanted to say. That I mean, if you're already a user of Electrum or become to be later or whatever, then. And also, if you are a programmer, then please, well, first of all, report bugs and have a look at existing bugs and maybe look at the code. And if you have a bit of free time, maybe submit a pull request. I mean, that's how open source works. That would be nice.
Fantastic. So listeners, go and find the guys, find electrum.org, follow them at Electrum Wallet on Twitter, and obviously it's a hashtag Electrum on Freenode. Thank you guys for joining me on the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Stefan.
Remember to share the show with your friends and find me at stefanlivera.com. That's it from me. See you guys in the Citadels.